Morning, Supervisor Boss. My name is Nguyễn Tăng Thành, and I will go on our presentation on the interference mitigation techniques. And first of all, I will review some existing interference mitigation techniques in femtocell network. These techniques can be divided into two types: interference cancellation and interference avoidance. Interference cancellation is a technique that applies after the interference is received at the receiver. And the interference avoidance is they try to induce intelligent ability into the femtocell so that the femtocell can adjust itself to deal with the interference. And consider two types of interference. We go for the interference avoidance because it's more referred and suitable with the ad-hoc nature of femtocell network. Unlike macro network is planned by the operator so that they minimize the interference between the macro cells. But the femtocell that is used by customer are those who don't know about the interference. They don't use and they can place the femtocell in whatever they want in the house. So that's called interference. So the femtocell needs to have the ability to know, to detect the interference around the environment and adjust its transmit power. That's the main idea of interference avoidance. Next slide. So after some times of study interference technique, we see that power control is an important technique, and this is the most deployed technique in interference avoidance. Especially, this is very important in the CDMA network, which we deal with UMTS and HSPA. So the idea is the femtocell had the intelligent capability to self-adjust its transmit power. It can surround the surroundings to adjust its transmit power so that it cannot cause significant interference to the macro cell users. In closed mode, only register subscribers are allowed to connect to the femtocell. The femtocell, each families have their own femtocell, so they do not want the femtocell to be connected by other people in the street. So this in the closed mode, only the subscriber in the house are allowed to connect to the HNP. So what is the problem with the closed mode? It means that, for example, we have a femtocell here, and this guy is using this femtocell, this is transmitting, and I'm using another phone near the femtocell, but I'm not allowed to connect with this femtocell because this femtocell belongs to this guy. But this phone is far away from the macro cell. It means that the receive signal from the macro cell is very weak in my phone, but I receive very strong signal from the femtocell. But I cannot connect to the femtocell, and this will call the dead zone. I mean, that's the there's likely that this phone it doesn't work in this case. So we call this a dead zone around the femtocell. So the femtocell should be have capabilities of detecting the surroundings to know that there's a lot of macro cell users around, and I need to adjust my transmit power to mitigate the interference causing to the macro cell users around. Hello? Hello? Next slide, please. So here's the technique proposed in our study. It's called network listening power control. The idea is very simple. Each period of time, the femtocell will measure the total received signal from all the macro cell and the femtocell nearby. And based on that received signal, the femtocell uses information to adjust its transmit power. Hello? To make a decision on the transmit power, the femtocell based on follow conditions. First, macro cell users at the dead zone have to receive minimum channel quality. So common pilot channel ACB over interference, the total interference, and also to not cause unnecessary interference to the femtocell, to macro cell user around the femtocell needs to the transmit level so that the common pilot channel experienced by the femtocell user itself only have minimum value. So, for example, this is we have the femto user near the femtocell. So this femtocell can detect the user so that it only transmits enough power for this one. It cannot transmit higher power because when it transmits higher power, it can cause the interference to the macro cell user around. So it can detect, know that they are the femto user nearby, and I only need this power to transmit. I don't need to transmit higher power because when I transmit higher power, I will cause interference to the surrounding macro cell user. So that's kind of the thing femtocell working during the adjustment in the algorithm. Here's we go to the parameters for the algorithm. Maximum transmit power. This is typical for macro cell. Loading factor. It means that's when the femtocell only. The macro cell only transmit 50% of its power, its maximum power. This is the energy per chip to the total transmit power. For example, we have our macro cell maximum transmit power is 43. So the energy per chip transmit power is 33 dBm. This is the range of the femtocell. Q quality which means the minimum common pilot channel EC over the total interference required at the receiver of the users. Next. In order to implement the algorithm, we need to consider and use some models in the simulation. The first model is the path loss models. The path loss models, we use the path loss model proposing, this is the document of 3GPP. I will write in detail in the report. The next one. And also, we have to generate the suburban outlines to simulate the effects of the algorithm integrated in the femtocell, how it can cause interference around. And in this presentation, we will present the so far result we have achieved. We have not achieved all the result from the simulation, but only some. And today I will present those results. Next. This is antenna parent in the macro cell. We use in the macro cell area, we use 3-sector antenna, and each antenna is directional antenna. So this is the gain of antenna depending on the angle, horizontal angle. And idle cell reselection parameters. It's not clear here. So we have the Q quality, meaning Q intersearch and intersearch. This is the value, the Q, the S intersearch. It means that when the receive the channel quality, the receive channel quality signal smaller than this value, the femtocell start the search for better cell in the inter-interference. So the first simulation in this part is about the dialing interference effect when we adding the femtocell to the existing macro cell. So for example, we have, this is the macro cell base station, this is the femtocell, and this is the coverage area of the femtocell. And the distance between the femtocell user and the macro cell, we assume to 30 meters in this simulation to see the effect. So the goal in this part is to determine the coverage radius of the femtocell in this scenario. The coverage radius is radius within which the femtocell user can receive the acceptable signal quality from the femtocell. Here are some parameters we use in this simulation. So the quality meaning values for common pilot channel is 20 dB, and this is the transmit power of the macro cell. So in order for the femtocell user to receive the quality signal from the femtocell, it needs the EC over I0 needs to be less than or equal to minus 20 dB. So with this range, when the femtocell transmit with the power 21 dBm, its range only about 3 meters. And when we reduce the transmit power of the femtocell, the range also reduced. This is data throughput analysis of the femtocell when being added to the macro network. The larger distance between the macro cell and the femtocell user, it will see better quality from the femtocell. Next one. This is the path loss models we generated in the suburban area. We measure the path loss between the femtocell user to the femtocell and macro cell, and we also measure the path loss between the measure at the femtocell to a stronger femtocell, which is useful for the network listening power control algorithm later. And we can see that the maximum path loss between femtocell and femtocell users is 110 dB. And also pay attention to the path loss between the femtocell user to strongest femtocell and femtocell to strongest femtocell nearby. Picture like, so it means that the measure of receive signal at the femtocell and at the femtocell user a little bit different. So it means that the network listening control power has some inaccuracy in the measure of signal received at the femtocell user, because it's assumed that the The receive signal at the femto cell is the same as the receive signal at the femto cell user. But actually, there's some difference in the receive signal at the femto cell and the femto cell users. So that's the big problem with the algorithm we described previously. And we also try to simulate the effect of adding this algorithm into the macro cell network, but I still have some problem in the simulation because the model is good, the cell reception algorithm is good, but I don't know the error in the code. So this is what we achieved so far in the thesis. Thank you. Hello?
So I see that you have obtained some results in your simulations, but they're not all right. So what are your plans of
Actually, in this thesis, I discovered something in this thesis. Interesting in this thesis is that the aspects of the study is very new. The femto cell is very new, about 10 years ago, and some companies, some researchers, we realized the benefits of femto cell, and even in VIETTEL cooperation, they put it in practice already. So some company produce a lot of research and group to study the femto cell, but the resource is not much for us to have a reference because it's kind of new aspects. And secondly, we are totally deal with the new things in our study because the kinds of algorithm in this thesis is very easy to understand because the algorithm is very simple, very easy, but the implementation for simulation and for making it in reality is very difficult. For example, in our simulation, I work a lot to try to simulate the effects of the algorithm, but still have some errors in the code. And my purpose in the next stage is to evaluate the algorithm in system level. I mean that I already generated the suburban area. I have the next. I generate the houses, generate the macro user, femto cell inside, and macro cell, and I try to implement the algorithm into the femto cell and see before implementation and after implementation what is the effects into the data rate and the throughput we see at the user. If we don't have the power control in the femto cell, it causes very serious interference around. And I have the result already, but I had not updated the slide yet. But with the algorithm inside, the result get better. So, sorry. In one sector, I have 100 femto cell, and out of 100 femto cell, there are 24 active femto cells. This is common parameters people 3GPP people use to simulate the scenarios.
How are the 24 active femto cells distributed in your
Just randomly. Yeah, I generate 100 times to see the effects in system level.
I see in your
Yeah, this is the simple individual scenario we use to see the result of adding femtocell to the macro cell. So what is the effects of adding the femtocell to the macro cell? In order to see it clearly, we use very simple scenario to see the effects. For example, the throughput of the user, it changes a lot. But in order to evaluate the algorithm only has effects in the system level. It means that when we put the algorithm inside the femtocell, it doesn't always guarantee that all the macro cell users around will receive a good quality, but it tries to maximize the number of macro cell users around receive good quality, as many as possible. So in order to evaluate this effect, how to do it in system level, it means that we have to generate the whole macro cell to see the effect.
Before you say that, you have some interference from the macro cell to the base stations, the femtocell to the macro cell, right?
Yeah. Both direction.
Yeah. So the distance from the macro cell base stations and the users on the femtocell will affect the interference. I see question returns. Why do you choose not? Why not?
We can change it. But
why don't you just do the simulation to see the effects of the distance from the base station and the
you mean the distance between the base station and the femtocell? The point is we try to make clear on the algorithm. The algorithm assumes that the algorithm doesn't know the femtocell doesn't know the distance of the femtocell user around. It's only assumed. It assumes that the receive signal from macro cell at the femtocell is the same as the receive signal from macro cell at the femtocell user. This is assumption of the algorithm. So this is why we only consider the coverage area to the femtocell, but don't put much attention on the distance in this simple scenario, because the assumption to femtocell in the algorithm.
And when you say that the power controls is one powerful technique to avoid interference, why don't you consider other techniques?
I did already. Actually, they have some techniques. We can name some power control. You antenna sector, which we already implement in the simulation, but have not achieved result. And also they use time hopping CDMA. It means that when they transmit the signal, they divide the duration into a hop or a slot. And when we divide the duration into a number of slots, it means that they reduce the change of two users use the same slot, and they reduce the change of they use the same slot with the same frequency. So this will reduce the interference in system level. They transmit in normal, they transmit in the duration. But now with this technique, they don't transmit in that whole duration. They divide the duration into slots. They call hops, and they only transmit during each small hops. And with this kinds of techniques, the chance that the femtocell users using the same hops with the macro cell user is very small. So which reduce the probability of causing interference to each other. But this is very complicated techniques, because the femtocell is already simple one, and it needs to be cheap. So it needs to be implemented the very simple but effective algorithm. So if we do that, a lot of calculation need to be implemented, and maybe the femtocell will get higher price. So after consider all of these algorithms, we decided to go for the power control.
Just small reminder.
Yeah.
50% of 43 dBm is not 20 something.
The what?
Put the parameter here,
Yeah.
and before you say that macro cell only transmit 50%
Yeah.
of its power, and you say it around 20 something, right?
No. The transmit power is 40 dBm, but the power for the padlock is 33. So the femtocell will transmit two kind of power. The one is parallel channel to attack the user.
It's not the femtocell, it's the macro base station.
The macro cell, sorry. The base station will transmit small portion of power to attack the user to selection his cell, so that they use small portion. This only minus 10 dB in dB scale. The first slide is maximum allow power transmit power of the macro cell, but in reality they only transmit 40 dBm, and out of 40 dBm they use 33 dBm to transmit by lot energy to attack user to came on the macro cell. The what? The remaining there are two cases. They can use left and less. Also, they can left for the HSDPA high speed downlink channel.
Okay.
If they don't use high speed downlink channel, they just left unused. As I said before, this kind of research attracts a lot of researchers since 10 years from now on. And there's a lot of forum they established to study, and they also have some formal document to have standard parameters for some femtocell situation. And I use it from 3BB document, which I reference in the report.
In this basic, you scope with the best findings.
Yeah, I did. I add not normal fading into the bad loss model, which in some forum they don't do that. But in my simulation, I add two more things: the normal bad loss into the normal shadowing effect into the bad loss, and also the directional antenna in the macro cell into the simulation. We will deal with the dowling interference. At the first stage, we thought that we can implement both dowling and uplink interference techniques, but it seems that it time's up now. We don't have a time, so maybe we only focus on the dowling. Yeah. I see that the uplink evaluation is more difficult and more interesting, but maybe we don't have time to implement this kind of thing. So our goal is in next time we try to finish the evaluation of the algorithm into the system level to see the effects on the coverage area and the user experience when we add the femtocell into the macro cell using calibration techniques to adjust the transmit power.
Only the units for H and B coverage less
Sorry. Yeah, the coverage radius can measure in dB or in meters.
and 80 dB equivalent to how many meters?
It depends on the simulation scenario. So in our simulation, 80 dB, 1 meters correspond to 37 dB. So I need to do some calculation to get the result. In our simulation, we use coverage radius measure in dB, or 1 meter correspond to dB. This is not always true in all the scenarios. It's only true in specific scenario we consider. So about 80 dB, the femtocell. I cannot calculate by hand, but we use the formulas in MATLAB to calculate this value. Because it totally depends on the scenario. The base station outside, the user outside of the house, or the user inside of the house, the base station outside. In this case, the padlock the same distance. For example, 10. But the padlock is greater than this one. So it depends on the scenario. But this is for sure because I use this thing to enforce the distance between the user and the macro cell greater than 1 meter. The slide. These are parameters. These are parameters for the directional antenna from 3GPP documents. This is standard one. Or the OMTS antenna use kind of sector antenna with directional gain. At the zero angle, the user can receive the maximum power from the antenna. But the more the user reside, the less power the user receive from the macro cell. So, for example, in the scenario here, we have did a 3-sector antenna in the actual macro cell layout. They place 3-sector directional antenna in 3-sector, and because it's a directional antenna in this direction, the user in this direction receives the maximum power from the macro cell. But when the user reside, for example, in this, you will see less power. How much lesser? It depends on the horizontal angle to the base station. The what? The red point is the femtocell user receiving power from the femtocell, and the plus side, the green, is a macro cell around, and each square corresponds to a house. In each house we have the femtocell, and if this femtocell is active, there are one femtocell user receive the power from that femtocell. If this femtocell is in idle, there's no femtocell user inside the house. In the system level, this is only one symbol to have a clear look at the layout. But actually, in the system level, there are 57 cells need to generate to evaluate the effects of the femtocell acting. So this is one cell of 3-sector, and we need 56 more macro cells placed next to each other to evaluate the effects. And we also control the probability of a user to be inside or outside a house, because the inside outside is the very important effect to evaluate when we want to draw a conclusion from femto cell, because femto cell is a solution to solve the indoor coverage problem. So when the user inside the house, the signal received very small. So we need to place femtocell inside the house. But when you place the femtocell inside the house, the femtocell will cause interference to the macrocell user nearby. So kind of the trade-off.
Is there the percent probability you inside house?
Yeah,
Why you choose this value?
you can change it. It's not really important what the value, but we need to control the value probability to see the effect. We cannot generate the random model without any the parameter control on the model. We can use it 10% or 30%. It depends on the real scenario. For example, in this city, there's a lot of user. Usually they use their phone inside a house, so I can increase this number. But in for example, in this city, people go work a lot, so most of the time they use the phone outside of the house, outdoor experience. So I reduce this value. But in this specific scenario, I use this value. But according to the recent study, recently people people establish a call from indoors a lot because they spend more time inside house. But in the big building far away from macrocell base station, the quality very bad. The femtocell is a solution. Báo cáo nó còn chưa cập nhật. 11, 12 chung rồi. 11 năm rồi. 11 đó được rồi. Chưa. M1 trước đi. 12 đó chưa. Chưa bỏ. 1, 12 đứng thứ ngữ nó vô lịch nè. 11.
myself.